Hiya, best of Trekkers! We hardly got to know Kate Pulaski during Season 2 of Star Trek The Next Generation, before BevDog took her old job back. Today, we explore the question posed by my friend Josh from the channel Windgrace. What if Pulaski stayed on as Chief Medical Officer aboard the Enterprise D? Alternate Trek history. The universe is as we know it, up till the start of Season 3 of TNG. In this universe, Bev decides to keep her top posting as the head of Starfleet Medical, rather than return to Starship life, as she knows Wesley will be here at the Academy soon anyway. That leaves Katherine Pulaski in the role of CMO aboard the Enterprise D. The first change in the timeline comes during Who Watches the Watchers, which I don't think ever spins out of control, due to Pulaski's technique of mind-wiping being better applied, which means Picard doesn't take another primitive weapon to the chest. In The Enemy, Pulaski doesn't tiptoe around Worf's hatred for the Romulan. After a stern talking to, she convinces her tea ceremony friend Worf that it's in the Federation's best interest to keep this guy alive. In Trek's look at the Troubles, during the High Ground, Pulaski agrees with Worf, Data, and Picard about GTFO after the bombing and requests to be beamed up with the injured person. She's never taken during the bombing, but neither did Picard get a chance to defuse the situation on this planet. The bombings continue. Yesterday's Enterprise sees 2 Season 1 main characters return, with Bev as the ship's CMO, and it plays out the same as it did originally. When Data creates Lal in The Offspring, Pulaski shows her growth in understanding cybernetic life, being part of the conference with the Admiral, telling him exactly what she thinks of trying to take a child from its parent. After the Borg make a run for Sector 001, Family sees Bev make a cameo, still delivering the holoprogram from Jack. During Remember Me, Pulaski would have no reason to go to engineering during Wesley's experiment. Instead, Geordi, who's honestly more prone to moments of suffering, ends up in the warp bubble. He figures out what's going on a little sooner than Bev did, and is able to get out before the last moment. The faux future in Future Imperfect sees Dr. Solar make a rare appearance in place of either Crusher or Pulaski. When Data wants to learn to dance for the O'Brien wedding, it is instead Riker teaching him jazz swing, with no dancing doctor to tap dance her way into our hearts. Back in Sherwood, Pulaski ends up in the role of Marion's handmaiden, and is just as unimpressed about riding horses in the dark during some of Q's nonsense. With Pulaski in the big blue shirt of the D, she not so subtly tells Satie what she thinks of her under oath, which is just a preview of things to come from Picard. Troy gets the love story in The Host, and when Riker gets the symbiont, it forces her to actually talk about her feelings for Will for the first time since Season 1. Geordi never gets a chance to do his best Gilbert and Sullivan tryout in Disaster. I'm of the school of thought that Pulaski designed the holotest Tendi takes in I Excretus.
I broke my back picking up a peanut.
Let's send you off to Stovacor!
So, in ethics, I think Pulaski would have ended Worf's suffering per his request. Even Picard thought Will was doing the wrong thing by refusing Worf in his request. Dr. Russell never comes on board. She never has her medical license revoked, and continues to experiment on people that may have lived with standard treatments. Alexander goes back to live with Worf's adoptive parents. This is a major departure from the standard Trek universe, and you should consider reverting to a previous save. Bev makes an unsurprising appearance in the first duty, but everything still plays out the same. We're treated to not 1, but 2 wedding episodes in a row. Waxana marries Minister Campio after not having her expectations realigned by taking someone else's child to a mud bath, though I think this would start a running gag of her being divorced by the next time we see her. Kate is 1,000% with Picard and nopes right the hell out of bringing Hugh on board. Diana Muldaur gets to look fabulous in 1890s attire in Time Zero. She helps Data in his crusade to recognize exocomp status as sentient. We really needed more Susie Plaxon, So I think Dr. Solar gets selected to go to Celtris 3 as part of the undercover team. Meanwhile, Pulaski is the only department head to not have issue with Jellico's command style. She tries to use her familiarity with Moriarty from Elementary Dear Data to convince him to give up control of the ship. It fails, but it gives her something to do. Picard does not die under the inept administrations of Beverly Crusher. Pulaski gives him 10 cc's of whatever worked a minute ago.
Give me 30 cc's of whatever just worked a minute ago.
And he doesn't have the epiphany about life not being so bad. When Jean-Luc and co. get reduced to rascals, Picard does some other stuff instead of using Alexander's toy, but still manages to outwit the dumbest Ferengi that were still smart enough to infiltrate the Federation flagship. A fistful of Datas does happen. But Data does not start talking in Brent Spiner's famous Old West Virginia accent.
Hello, it's us.
However, no one is trapped on the Badgie deck. Worf never frees the Klingon-Romulan prison camp the Iridian lied to him about. Without Bev's love of theater and the play frame of mind, Riker's brain doesn't have anything to ground him, which I think means he ends up either dead or a prisoner of the Telonians. He instead ends up in a loop of endless Enterprise corridors. This leads to Data being elevated to First Officer, and completing the series in a red shirt. Pulaski never realizes Riga was murdered, and Jobrill's crime goes unpunished. Worf never goes to Boreth. Kahless appears to someone else, so the Federation never becomes involved. Gowron gives Kahless the eyes, and has him executed when he figures out the truth on his own. After losing Will a few episodes before, it becomes a mixed bag of emotions for the crew when they find the transporter clone Thomas Riker in Second Chances. He stays on board and never changes his name, just kind of assuming the life of the man the Enterprise left behind. After losing Will, Troy's feelings are much more complicated than most. He stays on board as a lieutenant, never becoming a Maquis. The descent cliffhanger just never happens. Without Hugh corrupting a group of Borg, Lore has no followers and is still on the loose. Without Commander Riker's help in Gambit, Picard is killed by Baran in his mutiny attempt. But now the events of Tapestry take place, and Q saves him in the end. He's shown on multiple occasions to want to preserve Jean-Luc Picard's life, and he emerges to take over the mercenary ship as before. During the episode, Data gets command and gives Lieutenant Riker temporary promotion to First Officer. During Attached, we finally get more about why Pulaski had a Picard fixation all the way back in Season 2. No, she doesn't have a secret crush on him like Bev. She just thinks he's a really great captain. They escape Kesprit and maybe have a breakfast together. Worf's not around to cause the barriers between realities to break down. Lieutenant Riker has had even more time to think about the Pegasus than Commander Riker did. He tells Picard everything he knows early on in the episode, and no Trip Tuckers were unalived in the making of this thing. While the Enterprise does not go to Bev's grandma's funeral, she does, and without the Enterprise's interference, she retires as head of Starfleet Medical and embraces Ronan. Probably 1,000 times more satisfying than traveling the galaxy on the down low with her son Jack. Troy has to wait till Data is back from the mission in Thine Own Self to take the command test. She doesn't get the hint Will originally gave her and fails the bridge officer test. Troy's fate goes from bad to worse in Eye of the Beholder, as Lieutenant Riker is the one cheating on her in the vision. Unfortunately, there's no one there to pull her back from the edge of the plasma field in the nacelle this time. The psychic trap gains another victim. Things get weird during Genesis, but Worf isn't around to test a new torpedo guidance, so neither Picard or Data have to go chase it. And Data is able to get communication off to Starfleet for assistance, along with working with Pulaski to come up with a cure before everything falls completely apart. Without his father to figure out the potential universe-ending paradox, Alexander comes back and unalives himself. We'll assume this is a C leads to A leads to B kind of look at timelines and universes in Trek, and I'll choose to not look at this as the total annihilation of everything. All Good Things plays out a fair amount differently without 2.5 key players. I don't think Pulaski ever had dreams of commanding a ship. Data is still in Starfleet as an admiral commanding the 3 nacelle Enterprise D, and agrees to take Picard to the Devron system. This kinda makes more sense for the line about the 3 tachyon pulses coming from the Enterprise. And hey, Pulaski brings Romulan ale to the final card game. The 4 TNG movies play out largely the same, but there's no one there to set up Data for the joke about firm boobs. Now, it's honestly the butterfly effect stemming from Pulaski's extra years on the Enterprise that have the widest ranging effects in the Star Trek universe. Lieutenant Riker is pulled into the Delta Quadrant during Voyager's Death Wish. The Defiant is never stolen in Defiant, which doesn't alter the plans of the Obsidian Order and Tal Shiar, but doesn't tip off Dukat and Sisko to it ahead of time. Worf never goes to DS9. Sisko never uncovers the plot to invade Cardassia. The Klingons catch them by surprise and have an easier time taking over the Cardassian Union. There's no battle at DS9 and no breakdown of Federation-Klingon relations. This also means Dukat does not contact the Dominion, but does lie low and study the Pa-wraiths while the Klingons occupy his homeworld. Worf doesn't derail Odo's investigation in Hippocratic Oath, and a crime ring is disrupted. Dax and Kor alone go after the Sword of Kahless. This ends up preserving it rather than beaming it into space. Jadzia leads the Defiant mission to Earth in Paradise Lost to much the same effect. Dukat is in hiding with no Cardassian military left, so the events of Return to Grace never happen and Kira just gets to chill for an episode. Worf's brother Kern never becomes disgraced because of Worf's decisions for the family, and doesn't get turned into another Klingon. Looking for Par-Mak never happens, Quark never understands the deeper rituals of Klingon love, and gets none from Grilka. Nor the battle to the strong never happens because the Federation isn't at war with the Empire. Jake just has to write a boring biopic on Bashir, with an I. Pascal Fullerton remains a minor annoyance on Risa, but his message never fully resonates, especially with the Dominion being a more abstract concept to most in this timeline. Inauburn Tane's message is still sent, but this time Garrick's partner in crime is Dax, and they're still imprisoned. Not by a Dominion invasion force, but a simple patrol that picks them up. It's only upon their escape that Changeling Martok and Bashir in the Alpha Quadrant are exposed. Real Martok does get a chance to regain his warrior spirit during Soldiers of the Empire, but Dax doesn't go along. He's unfortunately assassinated by his crew for being a poor commander. The Dominion never come to the Alpha Quadrant the same way they do in the Prime timeline. They continue to try to disrupt things with a few changelings throughout the quadrant, but never gain a foothold in the former Cardassian Empire. The full-on Dominion War never takes place. The Federation never loses control of DS9, and Zial survives. Obviously, Worf and Jadzia never get married. Waltz never takes place. Dukat does not contact Kira on her mom's birthday, and she never finds out about their love affair. Section 31 never tests Bashir or makes themselves known to him. The Valiant never loses its senior officers and completes its circumnavigation of the Federation. While Dukat does still show up for the orb on DS9 to further the agenda of the Pa-wraiths, Jadzia is not in the shrine when he does and lives. The Sisko's overall task becomes defeating the Pa-wraiths once and for all. The Pa-wraith cult attempts to kill the Sisko both on the station, which is what gets him to go back to Earth, and there also, which sets him on the path to search for the orb of the emissary. Kor dies lonely and forgotten, having pissed off everyone in the Empire that matters. Nog does not lose his leg and have PTSD. Dukat does show back up by starting a Pa-wraith cult on Empok Nor. This sets him up to still be the Sisko's mortal enemy at the end. Miles O'Brien suffers the ultimate fate when he goes to New Sydney looking for Marika Bilby, and he doesn't take his beating as a cue to stop looking for her. Without Ezri's help, he's unalived by the Orion Syndicate. Most of the ending episodes of DS9 are different. We get set up for more stuff about the Pa-wraith cult, Dukat does still hook up with the Kai, and the Cisco still has to sacrifice himself to stop him. Season 7 probably has a lot more exploration of the Gamma Quadrant episodes. Maybe Kai Wynn goes to get a premonition from former Kai Opaka about her ultimate fate. Moving on to some major shifts in the stories told in Picard, Bev is content with Ronan and does not make Jack with Picard. Without the Dominion War to make the leadership more xenophobic, the Federation saves more Romulans in the evacuation. Picard is labeled a hero among Romulans, and a statue is built on Vashti of him. Picard never gets a nifty android body, but Q does visit him at the end of his life, and sets up a slightly different elaborate plot that he still ends up leaving the key for himself in, and a dying Q saves Picard's life. But Rios, Seven, Raffi, and Borgatti are not involved. Something bad comes out of the hole in space the Borgatti Borg were trying to warn us about, but I'm not going to speculate on what this MacGuffin might have been. No Dominion War means no Vadic, but a dying Borg Queen targets Janeway instead of Picard/Locutus, since she's the one that collapsed the hive. Unfortunately for Seven, she continues on with the Fenris Rangers and never becomes a Starfleet commander. It's amazing how far-reaching the effects of a different CMO on the Enterprise has on the wider Trek universe. If you've made it this far and enjoyed the content, please consider a like and subscribe. Also, if you have ideas for future what-ifs, please leave them in the comments, and let me know how you think Trek would have been different if Pulaski had been in sickbay. Until I see you again, live long and prosper.